Welcome to Legacy Blueprint, Planet Forward, the podcast where top thought leaders in law, finance, and wealth planning come together to guide your future. Hosted by distinguished estate planning attorney Mike Bascom, each episode highlights industry experts who bring clarity, innovation, and proven strategies to the table. Because building a legacy isn't a solo act, it's the result of a team of professionals working in harmony. Join us weekly as we showcase the leaders shaping tomorrow and give you the tools to plan with confidence today.
Welcome to the Legacy Blueprint, where today's thought leaders help you build tomorrow's legacy. I'm Brad Bascom. Usually Mike interviews guests about what they do and how they built what they built, but today's episode is a role swap. I'm interviewing Mike because you can't really talk about legacy without starting with the person who helps families protect theirs.
Thanks, Brad. I'm looking forward to this podcast.
So, Dad, before we dive into the technical stuff, let's start with you. Why did you decide that now was the right time to launch a podcast?
Well, one of my hobbies is to visit national parks. And when you visit national parks out west, they tend to be scattered and you do a fair amount of driving. On one of those drives, I was listening to the radio, and you've got talk shows, you got sports, you've got Christian music, you've got experts talking about their various topics, financial, whatever. And during one of those trips, I was listening, and I thought, gosh, there's no one talking about estate planning. People talk about all these other topics, but no one talks about estate planning. And estate planning is such an expansive concept. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to hear people talk about that particular topic? So I thought, why not? If someone's going to do it, why not me? I've been in the practice of estate planning for so long. It seems like it'd be an appropriate time to talk about estate planning and be able to pull in various people who are experts and have them share their wisdom as well.
Well, and you have spent decades practicing estate planning law. So what gap did you see in how people understand or misunderstand this area that made you want to start the Legacy Blueprint?
Well, I think when people talk about estate planning, the first thing that pops into mind are death and taxes, right? It only applies when I'm dead, and what are the tax rules? And currently the estate tax thresholds are pretty high. Most people are like, hey, I don't have a big enough estate, I don't have to worry about it. And I think that's incorrect. Back in 1996, I was introduced to two mentors who talked about estate planning in an expansive role. And it's interesting. They were so influential that I actually ended up being a contributing author on a couple of their books. I'm going to read one paragraph from the first book that we wrote together. And it says, when it talks about what is estate planning, it says, I want to control my property while I'm alive and well, care for myself and my loved ones if I become disabled, and be able to give what I have to whom I want, the way I want, when I want, and if I can, I want to save every last tax dollar, attorney fee, and court cost possible. Right now, I didn't come up with that definition. These gentlemen did. But what it taught me was that there's actually 3 time periods in everyone's life, and estate planning only focused on death. But the correct definition of estate planning talks about when you're healthy, if you become incapacitated, as well as when you pass away. And so I like that view is very different. It wasn't just, hey, do a simple document, and when people die, then help them administer it. I liked the proactive approach too, of being able to understand someone's situation and flip the equation. So instead of it just being a standard document, now it's what are the client's wishes and goals, and how do we incorporate that into the plan, given the client's unique situation, whether it's financial, what their family situation is, et cetera. How do you meld all that together? And that was the exciting part.
Sure. So back to the podcast itself, how did you come up with the name Legacy Blueprint Planet Forward? What does that phrase mean to you personally?
Well, when you think about a legacy, it's everything that you own. That's easy. But it's also more than that. What are your hopes, your values, your dreams? How do you, when you pass away, when you're gone, what do you really want to leave to your family? And hopefully it's more than just money. And if so, how is that all encapsulated into your plan? How did you put it together? Now, there's a lot of smart people out there, a lot of wonderful advisors in each respective area. And what I've come to understand is I can be really good, and we can be really good in our law firm at a few things, but we can't be great at everything. And so we've got to pick what it is that we can be really good and great at. And we've discovered that sitting down, listening to people, understanding their situation, and helping them plan that in an effective manner is where our true strength lies. So back to a legacy blueprint. What's a legacy blueprint? It's whatever you're putting in writing that expresses your wishes. So putting your plan in place. So your estate plan can be more than just simply legally and tax efficient. It can be beyond that. Now, why plan it forward? Too often, estate planning is what happened in the past. Someone died, so what do we fix? How do we correct it in the past? And I like the other approach, which is let's look forward. You are in your situation right now. What's past is past. How do we take where you are right now and maximize going forward either your opportunities, how do you bless the people or charities that you admire? How do you make an impact on the world? How do you produce significance? What is going to be your legacy? And that's how I came up with the phrase.
Okay. Well, then naturally, I have to ask, who is this podcast really for? When you picture the ideal listener, who do you see and what problems are they trying to solve?
Well, when you think about estate plan, it's kind of odd when you hear an attorney talk about this. But in order to do an estate plan, the person that you're doing it for actually has to love someone or something. If they don't care about someone or something, they're not going to do an estate plan. Why? Well, because it's more than just looking at yourself. Yes, you do provide and care for yourself, but you've got to go beyond that. So, who's the podcast for? Sometimes people just have one simple question they want answered. They can tune in. Frequently, it's going to be people who are trying to understand and get their feet around how do I put a comprehensive plan in place? Occasionally, it's going to be people who've already got a plan in place and they just may need a little bit of validation. Hey, what I've done is correct. Our goal is we're going to be interviewing lots of people, experts in their own respective fields. And what I've come to understand is there's many different ways to accomplish it. And so, particularly with, let's say, with a financial advisor, there's many different ways that people can be successful in having a financial advisor. There's not one way. With a client, there may be a best way. And so, if you've had a fantastic experience with your particular advisor, I'd love to be able to interview that particular advisor, give them a chance to explain what's unique about their approach. Because every professional out there has some little secret sauce, some special insight, and it'd be wonderful to have those in one place where people can come. And that's why we've got these podcasts. The intent being we'll be interviewing experts, authors, other professionals and give them a chance to express their views and put out their little, whatever their secret sauce is. And hopefully, those who have been underrepresented or hadn't had a great chance to put out their wisdom, it will give people an opportunity to listen to them and see what's going to be useful for them.
So I think I know where you're going with this, but what are you hoping listeners are going to walk away with after each episode, beyond just the technical knowledge?
So, after each episode, I'm hoping that listeners are going to walk away with more than just legal knowledge or technical knowledge, an appreciation for what goes into creating a legacy plan. It's not just documents, there's not just a single strategy. Ultimately, in order for a plan to work, the client has to put the plan in place, but then they need to have confidence in the plan. And so if they hear various options that are out there, it's going to help solidify that they, in fact, have a great plan in place. Now, they may be motivated, hey, I need to fix something, or they may go away with, oh, great, I've got that covered, everything is good. Ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, create estate plans that work.
As both your son and fellow attorney at our firm, Bascom Law, I know your passion for educating families. How does this podcast fit into that bigger mission of the firm and the work that you've built your entire career around?
Back in 1996, I mentioned that I met some wonderful mentors in estate planning, and we worked on the concept of estate planning covers 3 time periods in your life, not just when you die, but also if you become incapacitated, and certainly when you're alive and healthy, because there's different strategies you can put into place. We also came up with the phrase that was estate plans that work. Now, that may seem a little bit corny, but what is an estate plan that works? It's a plan that carries out the client's wishes. When I first started practicing law, it was all about using simple documents. There was a form document you would use. Sometimes the state would even promulgate a form. When I moved to Georgia and joined a small firm, the senior attorney that was retiring asked me, he said, what area are you going to focus on? I said, estate planning. He's like, oh, well, it's easy in Georgia. All you do is you do wills for free for as many clients as you possibly can for the first 10 years of your practice. Then you spend the rest of your career handling the probates. And I thought about that, like that does that really serve the client the best? And that was very different from how we'd done things in Florida, what I practiced for the first couple of years of my practice, where people were a little bit older, so we had a chance to recognize death and what works for them. And so we made a change, and we brought the idea to Georgia of why not look a little bit more holistic? Why not look at not just what's a simple document to put in place, but what's going to capture the wishes, the dreams, the hopes, what's the special challenges that are in a particular client's situation. And so that's what we'll build our practice around. In estate planning, there's three areas that lawyers can practice in, and people don't know this, but you've got estate planning attorneys that work on the planning side. They're going to help clients put a plan in place, choose the correct plan, give advice and counsel on what's going to be the best scenarios, and put that in place. Then you've got attorneys that focus on doing the administration of the plan, whether there's been an incapacity or a death. They're going to be handling guardianships, they may be handling probates or administrations. And then you've got the third category of estate planning attorneys. When things go wrong, they litigate everything. There's very different skill sets between all three of those areas. And what I discovered over helping hundreds of clients over multiple decades is that we are not the people that you want to help litigate a case. We've been successful doing that, but that's not our cup of tea. Similarly, handling the administrations, handling the probates, handling the guardianships. We're not the best at doing that. There's other attorneys that are fantastic at doing that. Our bailiwick and our star point is handling the planning. And we've discovered I enjoy it. We're successful at helping families do it. And if we do it right, it frequently minimizes or even eliminates those second and third categories that I talked about. And I find joy in sitting down with families, talking with them, planning out their particular scenario and putting a plan in place, and then watch the plan mature and it is carried out exactly as anticipated. And there's great satisfaction in knowing that we help the family through that process, alleviate expense, hassle, stress, reduce family fights that frequently occur if that was not done correctly. So I find a lot of joy in helping families put a plan in place that helps them, number one, achieve peace of mind, and then ultimately delivers the results that the family wanted.
Well, thank you very much for all of that. As we wrap up this first episode, if you had to give people just one rule of thumb or piece of advice that they should remember, what would that be?
Ultimately, a plan only works if it's in writing. And so, whatever plan you put in place, make sure it's in writing. And sometimes we'll have people come to us and say, oh, Mike, don't worry, I've got the plan in place. Everything's going to be great. And I say, great, let's stress test it. What I want you to do is this weekend, you and your spouse go home and tell the kids, hey, we're going to do a fire drill, which is mom and I just passed away in a car accident. And now we want you guys to see what you can do about putting in place and carrying out our estate plan. Obviously, don't go to the bank and change, bank accounts, but pretend as though we just passed away. What are you going to do right now? Boom. And then stop and let the kids see what they're going to do. What we found is that frequently there's going to be chaos right from the beginning. Well, where are the documents? What plans are even in place? What bank did they use? How do we get the passwords and usernames for all the accounts that are out there? How do we pay the bills? Who do we even notify? Who do we talk to? Who should we leave out? What funeral home we're going? And all these questions start to come up. And it was a little fire drill, right? For this family who said, no, we got everything locked into place. Well, didn't take too long for them to figure it wasn't completely in place. And that's a great trial run for people to do. So what do you need to do? The families that are most successful are the ones that have things mapped out, written down, put in place, and there's proof to it. So not just have a written document that explains what your estate plan is, but how are the assets titled? How are the beneficiary designations set? How do we know what that is? Your helpers, have they been trained? Do they know what they're supposed to be looking for? How do they know to get your usernames and passwords? Where are those accounts listed, right? And then making sure that you stay current with your plan as changes take place in the law. So that's kind of a long way of saying it, but if it's important, make sure that it's written down. It needs to be documented. And that probably is the single biggest um, strategy that I could offer to people, is to make sure that it's written down.
Thank you very much.
Well, as we come to the end of episode 1, Brad, thanks for taking the role of being the interviewer. Frequently, I'll be doing that role. There will be times when you'll be doing interviews, and I hope that there'll be times when you and I will be talking as well, because we'll be talking about estate planning matters, and those will be interspersed. Most frequently, we'll be talking with other advisors, but I appreciate you taking the role. I know it's a little bit uncomfortable to do that the first time out. Well, looking forward to this podcast, looking forward to your contributions, and would love to hear comments back from any listeners. If there's topics that you'd like to be addressed, if there are particular advisors that you would like us to interview, we're more than happy to do so. We're especially looking for people who have given presentations or they've authored books on subjects. We really like to hear the key thought leaders in each area. Thanks again, Brad, for your help.
Thanks, Mike.
That concludes today's episode of Legacy Blueprint, Plan It Forward with Mike Bascom. Each week, we bring you insights from thought leaders across law, finance, and wealth planning. Because building your legacy is never a one-person journey. It takes a team of dedicated professionals working in harmony to turn vision into achievement. If you're ready to take the next step toward your secure future, visit bascomlaw.com or call 77028559493. And don't forget to tune in again next week as we highlight more experts and strategies to help you plan it forward with confidence.